You just did something amazing. You hit play on TechVibe Pittsburgh to get your front row seat to Pittsburgh's technology and innovation ecosystem. I'm your host. I'm Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and I've been telling the stories across Pittsburgh's tech industry for nearly 30 years now. So how can small businesses navigate the AI revolution without getting lost in all that technological noise? In a world where AI is rapidly transforming industries, many companies like yours are struggling to understand how to effectively integrate AI technologies without risking their resources or falling behind their competitors. It's a tricky situation, but I've got some folks here today that can help you with that. I'm very excited to welcome Anna Maria Berta and Joseph Giampapa of LindenAI, so you can learn how to strategically approach AI adoption across different business domains. You're going to learn how to gain insights into demystifying all the AI technologies that are out there and understand how to evaluate AI solutions that are truly going to align with your business goals. So keep on listening now. You're going to learn about LindenAI's free summer consulting offer that can unlock your company's AI potential before Labor Day. Exciting stuff. Let's jump into the show right now. Joseph and Anna, welcome to the Huntington Bank Studios. Really glad to have you guys here. I get really fired up when we talk to our member companies here at the Tech Council, especially around all things AI. This is something I don't think we can have enough conversations around this. And everyone brings these unique perspectives and specialties and knowledge to it. And I feel like the more we can have these conversations, the more we learn and we see where all of this is moving forward. So thanks for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Let's start with introductions. So Anna, let's start with you. Your background real fast. And why are you hanging out with Joseph over here for crying out loud?
So yes, my name is Anna Maria Berta. I'm originally Italian, so moved
I thought you were from Pittsburgh.
I am. I have been living here for the majority of my life.
Awesome. Very cool.
So we moved at the end of 95 from Italy. And I've been working for CMU for many years.
Excellent.
Probably like a quarter of a century, I would say.
I bet it's a quarter of a century.
And then in 2022, with Joseph, my partner, co-founder, we founded LindenAI.
Yeah.
So that's actually the company that we are describing today.
We're talking to LindenAI all day long. And Joseph, about yourself and why you decided to found this company here.
Oh, I worked in private industry AI before coming to CMU to Pittsburgh in Italy. And it was really amazing how much there was a push to integrate it in a very diffuse way through all sectors of Italian industry.
Really? Okay, very cool.
That was fine, but I wanted to push the envelope and do research and get on the bleeding edge and do things that nobody thought of doing before. So I was doing that for a few years, as Anna said, quarter of a century.
Yeah.
And pushing the bleeding edge. And as I was doing that, I realized we're leaving these companies behind, especially in the United States.
Interesting, yeah.
There's the American industry, American companies, American government, even the military. They need help in ushering through the transformations that AI is bringing to the world. And these changes and transformations are inevitable. We got the calling that, you know what, it's not as challenging here. Let's get out there and see if we can talk to people and help them see how the industry and the world is changing and help them make that change.
Very cool. And so it was 25 years ago, you came to CMU then to expand all this.
We came to CMU in 95.
Okay.
CMU was unique in that it had a commercial project in language technologies to translate technical manuals from English into multiple target languages. So AI is a data-intensive discipline, and this was a significant non-trivial project. There were about 25 people on the project at the time, and I joined the team to work on it as they were winding down. My background was on the English language analysis, so I became the curator of all of the technologies that people had developed and left, and we consolidated it.
Gotcha.
And Anna worked on developing the commercial version of that.
Shit.
Yeah. I was actually responsible for a couple of products that were kind of companions of this bigger research
Tell me about those. That's interesting. I want to know.
I remember the acronyms, LTD and LMT, the language.
It was too long ago.
Language management system. No, yeah. And language database system, but they were Oracle-based systems.
What I'm impressed about is that you're working on this stuff like 20-something years ago, right? And everyone thinks of AI as being the thing that happened in the past couple of years. And we know Pittsburgh's CMU's been head of research of this for 50 years now, more than that.
Since the beginning.
Since the founding of it.
Since the coining of the term.
The coining of the term. But you guys have been doing this for a while, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, at the time in which we started, then in my case, it was actually the thesis for my college degree, and that was in mathematics.
Yeah.
But back then, it was also not easy to speak about artificial intelligence.
Right.
Like even the word itself was taken with some kind of people were skeptical, and
of course.
we use other terms like expert systems, or in my case, actually knowledge-based system, those kind of things.
Definitely going around the artificial side.
Because, the skepticism was really around, you're just dreaming too high. What are you speaking about? And alien thing.
Exactly.
And so in my case, actually, I moved from exactly the college experience to some work in industry, actually, in this lab where I met actually Joe. And my focus was on ETS, which is ETS in Italian. It was actually ITS, Intelligent Tutoring System, was basically knowledge-based systems for education.
Gotcha.
So in my case, the first project was actually teaching Italian verbs, which is not really because of the conjugations and all sorts of things. Pretty fun. It was a nice project to basically join the college experience to the
bring it all together.
Industry.
So what gets me excited is I see this depth of knowledge. I've got this bench of knowledge here, and you bring this together to form this company where you take all this and you bring it to the marketplace at this point, which I think is fantastic. So at what point you're like, this makes sense to form this company?
So at what point? We had a good run in 2022. I was working for two customers, one through CMU. It was in National Robotics Engineering Center.
Surely.
One of my customers was the Army.
That's a good customer name. Yeah. They pay their bill.
Continuing resolution, budget cuts, reorganization, reprioritization. But in any respect, so in 2017, I was escorting the Army program officer from our meeting to the guard desk. It was a fruitful day. And just on a whim, I asked him, so what are some of your next projects? And he said, the biggest problem we have is we don't know we need guidance for our own PMs to manage robotic autonomy because we don't have that sort of guidance. And I'm putting together a team to create that, but we really don't know how to get started. So in those few seconds of descending from the third floor to the ground floor, I said, if you do that, then just make sure that you have this and that you talk about this and that you make allowances for this. So by the time we left the elevator, he turned to me and said, okay, you know what?
You're hired.
I want you and I would like to have the kickoff meeting here, and I would like you to lead that kickoff meeting.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so that was 5 years. I did that for 5 years at NREC, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was the first big pull that NREC was, you have to do new research. You can't keep doing this sort of maintenance of the Army's problems for them. That was one of the pushes I found Linden. And then the other was, there's this manufacturing innovation institute called the ARM Institute.
I know about those guys.
For manufacturing,
yes,
which grew out of a grant by CMU, but it's wholly spun out. It's wholly independent, but they were cohabitating the offices at NREG.
I remember those days. Yes, I visited there a few times. Yes.
And they were doing education and workforce development. And I was a reviewer for the curriculum for certifying companies that have an appropriate robotics curriculum for industry. And along the way, they said, we have this congressional interest item that's likely to be passed in the next budget. And it requires developing a technical strategy for AI for manufacturing so that manufacturers can adopt robotics and AI to manufacturing. We need someone to write the technical strategy for us. Could you do that?
Yes.
I said yes to them, and that became exclusive. It became a full-time job in which I had to jettison the other opportunities. ARM actually hired me for the interim. And it was an occasion in which I met all of the government, military, and industry stakeholders because I had to socialize and tell them this is the vision, these are the things that we can do. But I also had to survey them to understand in detail how do you create the appropriate, or what are the appropriate AI technologies for a multi-sided ecosystem, such as what the ARM has through its membership. It was very insightful, and it gave me a lot of insight into what's needed on a national level as well.
Interesting. That's why it's so cool, because you go through life and you build a business and you meet people, and then things start building as far as it. And what has me impressed is how you're working with things like the military and with manufacturing. These are such core things to what we do here. It keeps the country safe. It keeps us making stuff and being competitive and everything like that. I just find that really cool.
They have very different needs.
Yeah, and they have very different needs. So you could have a lot of fun.
Yep. It's challenging. It's fun and challenging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, could we maybe talk about like some of the other folks you're working with, as now that you are like LindenAI as like the official holding company, for lack of a better term, for these kind of cool engagements that you have?
So something that's unique about us is that we have a systems engineering approach to solving the customer problems. You can't take AI like an object and just plop it on your shop floor and that'll be productive.
Oh, come on. I thought you said we had some AI on top of our process.
We just sprinkle it in.
We sprinkle some on top.
It's a mindset. And,
Interesting.
And when you're talking about the history, this is where you have to restrain me if necessary. Has always traditionally, I remember having this debate when I was consulting to Whirlpool Italia and helping. That's a division of Whirlpool that makes all of the home appliances for all of Europe, even for other brands. And they automated in the 1990s. The company I worked for actually did their production system.
Okay.
And as I was consulting to them, they said, oh yeah, we heard that AI is going to be the future and that's the best thing. And this is in the 1990s. And I said, most likely not. Because AI always used as a term to describe that aspect of computer science that doesn't have a name yet. You don't know how to give it a
interesting,
name.
right? Yeah.
Because as soon as it has a name, it distills into its own discipline.
Of course. Yeah. That makes sense.
Believe it or not, graphics used to be an AI discipline. Model checking, complexity analysis, all these other disciplines were
providing a level of automation to something. And so that, in a way.
So AI is just, because people would say, oh, look at this code. It's amazing. And it does something that's intelligent. So people would say, oh, so I'm doing artificial intelligence. And that became a way of describing anything under the sun. But then as it gets more, as the concept distills and people want to distinguish that concept from another concept, then they have names, and then AI becomes the next thing that isn't really definable. Where am I going with this?
Good question.
That's my question about the next best thing, right? So because we're systems engineering, we have a systems engineering approach. We always start with the customer's business goals and the context in which they work, which, ironically enough, not everybody has a good concept of what they are.
Imagine that's gotta be the case. They might think they do, but when they talk it through somebody, it's wait a second.
There's always a challenge. The challenge is that a company needs to constantly adapt. And when they're adapting to the changes of the market, they're seeing these trends, they're getting these signals in which they're not fitting exactly, but they think that they can respond to it and they feel that there's an opportunity there. Part of what we do is we work with the companies to brainstorm the opportunity and how they can position themselves to get closer to that opportunity without making a significant commitment that would put them at risk, so that they can hedge their bets and be familiar with what the possibilities are, explore those possibilities. And as they get a better perspective on how to pursue them, then they can begin to focus on them and develop them. It's very much like managing research, because research is very undefined. And
that makes sense. That makes so much sense.
That's one of the things that we do. So when you ask about very specific projects, what we're doing is helping people, and I can't talk about details, with a lot of the things in which there are lots of ideas, but they're not sure how to develop them further. So we engage them at that level. Yeah. And then if they need a project, like for example, I remember once the Air Force called me and said, hey, we need to automate this because it's taking too long and we don't even know how to write the RFP for this.
So you can actually help them.
How would you decompose the system?
Right.
So we call that, so for my days of working at the Software Engineering Institute, we call that acquisition support, in which you help a customer define the scope of their project, how they want to bid the project, how are they going to establish the performance metrics and the acceptance criteria, what should be an acceptable size of the project, the duration, what's involved in doing that. We provide that type of advice as well.
So you're working across all angles, Anna.
No, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to have a comment on the education. Because I think Joe actually mentioned quickly about also the expertise to create curricula and other educational systems. So we offer also that. But I think that the interesting part for AI is that it brings also some kind of transformation impact on society. So it's not just a technical innovation or something that it's just for technical people. Like everybody right now these days, they speak about AI.
Yes.
With companies or even with private, you basically can divide the population in the two groups of those that they just get very excited, that they wanted to push, to jump into the wagon.
To say they're doing it, right?
To do everything. AI now is the problem solver for everything. But there is also the group that actually they get scared and they maybe are more skeptical. So they needed to understand. So something that we can also provide is this kind of basic knowledge. In some situation, it's really a roadmap with the possibilities and the opportunities. And then let the clients actually decide what they wanted to actually consider for what is the business. So I think that particularly when a new concept enters into the society, you needed to also put the things in perspective, not to be a break, but really to consider that it's not a miracle, it's not a magic wand that touch and everything is solved. You needed to really have a basic knowledge and some basic guidelines, some basic understanding on...
and you can provide that.
We can do.
Which I think is interesting. So what I'm curious about is, you mentioned working with some awesome customers like with the Army and big manufacturers. I don't want people to be like shy and say, maybe I have a 15-person operation, but we're thinking of some automating some processes or engaging AI in a certain way. They can reach out to you, and really, I love that.
Even startups, it's clear that startups and small companies don't have money, and we mentor. We'll provide that advice and for free because they need that guidance. And it doesn't take a lot. It's just it's how to think about strategically what is the best way to develop a product in a digital way.
Exactly.
And you need to think digital transformation in order to leverage AI. AI it's like a Formula One engine. But the digital landscape is having smooth paved roads so that you can race your Formula One car on them. If you don't have that, what are you going to do with a Formula One car on dirt roads? It's not going to work. So
I think a great way to look at that. That's really interesting. I love that.
And actually, going back to this kind of basic knowledge, I just wanted to mention a different domain that was actually cybersecurity, where I worked for several years at CMU, where we had the kind of similar problem of chasing the technology. But now, the technology is going very fast and gives you this sense that you're never ready, because tomorrow there will be another piece of technology that you just didn't consider.
It never ends, and now you have something else to look at.
More. In those situations, actually, something critical but very effective, it's really to step back instead of stepping forward. Like you needed to
Tell
go
me
back.
more about that.
Oh,
yeah, that's interesting, because I think it's like taking a digital breath, right? Like a digital deep breath, where you're like, just chill for a second.
This example that again was used for cybersecurity, but I think you can translate it to AI easily. I remember that when I was involved with this project, was my secure cyberspace for kids. It was actually an elementary kind of program to teach cybersecurity to kids. And the problem was the very same. Technology was actually moving fast, and the project needed some time just for the design and the release. So we consider the thing that it's impossible to actually provide something on top of the technology. We wanted to go back to the guidelines. And the typical example was that when you teach your kids to cross the road, like basic traffic information, so that they are safe in moving by themselves, you don't teach the specific vehicles. So you don't say, and there will be school buses that will be low, and there will be pickup and the Fiat and the Chrysler and this and that. You say there will be cars which have some kind of definition, but the important thing is that you needed to know what happens on the road. You needed to know, look right, check again on the left, and then you feel safe and you cross the road. Yes, there will be the bicycle, there will be the dog, there will be other. But the basic concept is that you needed to check. So when I say step back, I mean going to a place from where the rules remain valid for a certain amount of time because of the basic guidelines.
That is
So
really
the
interesting.
technology can really change, but not the guidelines that the safety.
So there's like an alignment there, and one gets in front of the other, so you step back to what's real, I guess, for lack of a better term. Gotcha.
Really effective for the kids, but really can apply to adult population as well, per company, and to
Absolutely.
And I think AI presents a similar situation in which you needed to know some basic and you needed to have some basic knowledge to really navigate even through the options. And we had an interesting conversation actually with a potential customers that was a teacher actually, and she was just scared by the offer because now there are so many apps for several situations. She was describing actually supporting system for disabilities basically. But the point is not to explain every single, because tomorrow there will be more, and maybe what we explained, who knows, maybe
it's going to change
dramatically that our suggestion doesn't apply anymore. But if you understand what they do, how they do, you can actually be the judge of yourself. Like you can navigate safely among the offer and decide what is the best for your problem. This is actually the part that in which I'm interested.
Essentially, it's fascinating to me.
There is need actually for that, because even in informal conversations, there is a lot of confusion. There is. Again, the people really divide into the very enthusiastic and the very scared. Needed to really be in the middle. So
I was going to say that because I've seen some folks that are on the very enthusiastic side where they're just throwing stuff to do it. And there maybe isn't quite an aligned business value to go with that or business purpose. And it's because they're bored and saying, well, I want you to be engaging with that AI. And it's just, okay, so they're going to do it. But is it really solving something yet?
Right.
And I also think another thing that's come up to me lately is, as we've all been inundated with AI as heavily as we have, it's really reinforcing the point that we all have to be like just adaptive to technology. And whether it's AI or whatever it is, the fact that it's always going to be changing. And if you're going to succeed and build business, you have to be adaptable. It's not like you do this one solution, we're done now. It's like,
absolutely.
No, you're going to be, you keep iterating and you keep seeing where the changes
and
are.
understanding the basic concepts, because once you understand that, you can also evaluate yourself the new offer.
Exactly.
And maybe discriminate and even ignore us. Not necessarily.
One of the things that Anna raises and reminds me is that one of our mantras is that AI is knowledge. It's knowledge being leveraged in digital form. So we don't really care what the payload is or what the domain is. It could be any domain. The issue is, how can that knowledge help you if you were able to automate it with a computer program somehow?
That makes sense.
So a lot of what we do is to work across domains and just work at the level of knowledge and understand abstractly what are they really talking about. And then we translate that into what is the computational machinery. So that's what AI is about. It's about us, experts in computer science, understanding what is the knowledge that has to be captured, how does it need to be represented computationally. We want to minimize the burden of maintaining it because it's going to keep changing. It has to be updated, and that's a cost that you want to reduce as much as possible. And what is its life cycle for the company, and what's the context in which it's being used? So that's the way in which a person should be thinking if they want to adopt AI as a digital strategy for the company.
It's some sound advice. My key takeaway from this conversation, which is really enjoying with you guys, is the fact that it's this wild west right now in so many ways around AI. And you guys can help bring some of the chaos out of the world.
Oh, sure.
Where the real opportunities are.
It's that is not a joke, but something to what Joe said. So AI is knowledge, but you also need to be aware that sometimes is a fake knowledge.
Very much so, right? Because so much is coming out. We don't know what's real or hype or whatever it is.
So this is also part of the things that I said. You needed to really be able to assess also what you get. And if you know how it works and how the results actually are provided, you can really leverage and have wonderful results, but not be naive and just take everything.
Very interesting stuff. And before we wrap this up, I mentioned earlier how you can engage with companies large and small. You guys have an offer now where if anyone wants to hang out and check you guys out, and what do you have cooking for our members and our listeners here that we can throw out for them, Jeff?
As a matter of fact, we have a special promotion for the summer. It's good until Labor Day. That LindenAI is offering 8 hours of free consulting for a contract that involves a minimum of 40 hours of consulting.
Gotcha.
So you get 1 free day out of at least 5.
That's awesome. That's why I want people to be able to, because everyone's grappling with this in one level or another, and some people just don't know where to go. And this is why I get so excited. So we got the smartest members here at the Tech Council who are just, you guys are experts in this, and being able to make it accessible for our members, our listeners to go out there and be like, yeah, I can hang out with Joseph and Anna. And
we're always available for a free consultation.
Absolutely.
Because it takes a while to work out what it is that the person wants to pursue. There's no reason to charge them for that. We're here to help you organize your thoughts. So just
and
give
get
us a
started
call.
that way. And of course, we'll have links to your contact information. It's in the description. So if people want to check that out, they can reach out to Joseph and Anna. And this is just great stuff. I'm so glad you guys are doing what you're doing. I'm just so impressed that you guys have been here for 25 years and you're just building some great stuff here. You've done some really transformative work and you're taking that into the marketplace and helping other companies succeed with your depth of knowledge here, man. You guys are experts. I love it. It's so much fun.
That's great. And the PTC has been a very good, I mean, they've been fantastic. You guys are
Thank you so
Pittsburgh
much.
Technology Council is worth your weight in gold.
Oh, wow. I might have to coin that one. Appreciate it. Wonderful. That's awesome. We're glad we've been helpful because we want to help our members succeed. So we hope we're helping you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by, being part of TechVibe here in the Huntington Bank Studios. You guys are the best. In case you forgot, this is Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council. If you want a front row seat to Pittsburgh's tech sector, learn about these companies like LindenAI, just follow us. We have 2 or 3 podcasts a week coming out. I swear to God, we might overload you with content, but it's fun stuff. We'll see you on the next one.